Hello, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me from the chat. If you can hear me, please type in the chat. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining in this Chevening masterclass that I thought of organizing to just have a glimpse of all the issues you might have for the Chevening scholarship. Um, and we'll also be taking questions. So we'll give a few minutes, like 1 minute or less, and then I'll make a start. Um, but meanwhile, I would really encourage you to type in the chat and just not really just say your name and your country, and probably you also the field of study that you're looking to explore. So, for instance, you could say, "My name is Sam. I'm from Kenya, and I'm interested in public health." Such a thing, to have a glimpse of who is here with us. Um, I also promised that the 30 people who signed for this, they'll get a free 30-minute consultation. So that means I'll be able to look through the essays in 30 minutes, and we'll have that chat in the coming week. So make sure you're writing your essays, and don't wait until it's too late, because I also have my academic deadline. So don't just wait until the last week and then you're saying, "Oh, my 30 minutes consultation that you promised." So yeah, I also have deadlines. But perfect. So let me see. We are Yes, I can see people introducing themselves. That's great. Yeah, Christian, Nancy, yeah, Bokang, Ruth, CK, Ryan, Shavin, that's Wilson. Great, 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 great. I'll be starting in the next like 10 seconds. So if you're still typing, please conclude. I hope all of you probably also, if you have written your essays, and this would also be a chance for you to reflect on what you've done and see how you can improve them. Great. So, hello and welcome, future Chevening scholars. I am Sam, and I'm thrilled to have you here today for this Chevening Scholarship Masterclass. So, I prefer calling you potential or future Chevening scholars because you are. And today we'll be diving deep into the Chevening Scholarship application process. We'll be looking at the tips and insights that will help you craft a winning application. And so, a little bit of my introduction. I am Sam from Kenya, Nairobi, and I got the Chevening Scholarship in 2019 2020. Pursued an MSc in Agriculture and Development at the University of Reading. And the same year I got the Chevening Scholarship, I had gotten the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, and I also got the Marshall Papworth Scholarship. So I had three scholarships fully funded, and I had to choose, and I went for the Chevening Scholarship. So, and I hope a time like this next year, you'll be in the UK starting your master's degrees or traveling. I know a few scholars who travel this weekend, and others are traveling in the coming week to start their masters next week. So, and it's a great experience, not necessarily just because of the education, it's also the experience. It's totally life changing, but of course, people have different experiences based on how they interact with the program and the choices they make during their Chevening year. So, the Chevening Scholarship is a prestigious scholarship by the UK government. So, it's granted to outstanding individuals from all over the world to study in the UK, any university. And when we say UK, it means it could be in England, could be in Scotland, could be in Wales or Northern Ireland. And so the eligibility, which is basic, and I believe everyone should know, is that you should have a bachelor's degree. So a lot of some people have always asked whether you need to have gotten whether you can get it when you have a second class lower, or what other countries call a 2-2. Yes, you can get. So it's not really for second class upper and first class people who've gotten first class or second class upper. So that means people also who got a lower can apply, as long as you can get a university that accepts you. So the thing is, the caveat is, get a university that accepts you. And universities do not have also kind of, sometimes universities say if you have a lower and you have some form of experience, they might consider that as also an advantage. So don't shy away from applying for the Chevening scholarship, because I know people who've gotten it with a second class lower, or also so not necessarily having a second class upper or a first class degree. So you should also have 2 years experience. And I was just looking at the Chevening social media updates on Facebook and also on LinkedIn, and they were saying that in the last application cycle, most of the rejections they sent out at the initial stage was actually based on the experience. And I believe people probably didn't calculate the hours they put, because tuning allows you to put your work experience in hours. So when you're filling the form before you start writing the essays, when you go through, so make sure you follow the instructions they give. Basically, if you have an 8 to 5 job, then you know how many there are guidelines on how many hours you have to include you work per week, and then you multiply by the number of weeks in a year, number of working weeks in a year, and then you multiply by the number of years you've done. The good thing is that Chevening also accepts placements and also internships and voluntary work, as long as whatever you've been doing is not part of your degree. So the 3 month placement you do for as part of your university, if it's meant for you to graduate, then that doesn't count. So you only include what doesn't count towards your academic life. So I hope that's clear. And if you have any questions, I'll be tackling the questions later. So for the leadership essay, which now is what I'm planning now to move to. So this is the first essay and the most important that you also write. And remember, you write 4 essays for your Achieving Scholarship. The first essay is leadership and influence. The second one is networking essay. The third one is studying in the UK essay, and the fourth one is the career plan essay. So we'll be going through all the four of them one by one, and I'll be looking at the structure, common mistakes people make, and how you can make sure that your essays are also outstanding. So for the leadership essay, you need to demonstrate that you have leadership skills. So you need to, first of all, my idea of, or my suggestion would be, could you maybe list like 10 instances, not positions, but instances where you've demonstrated leadership, and then you could ask your friends, your family, which ones do you think are really outstanding of all the 10 or 7, and then reduce them to 3. And then when you have like 3 of them, what you need now is a structure of how to demonstrate your leadership example. And this is how this question is framed also in Chevening interviews, and also in behavioral interviews, in even because it's asked also in job interviews. Tell us of an instance when you demonstrated leadership. So this does not necessarily tell you to list all the roles or positions you've held. They just want an instance, just a specific point where you demonstrated leadership. So what what the idea then is always that what happens is that in the process of writing the essay, what you need to do is use a star approach, and there is no shortcut. I've reviewed so many essays ever since I got the scholarship, and most scholars miss the point, because the star approach helps you in just saying what is important. Remember, you have a limited word count. And when you have a limited word count, that means you cannot just ramble through words describing your job. Really, what you need to say is a time when you demonstrated leadership, and not just listing or describing your job. So what the star approach now requires you is to describe what the situation was. That is the S, and then the T is the task. What were you required to do, or what did you need to do? And then the A is the action, and this is the meat of the your example, because this is where you describe what exactly you did. Those are the actions. And then the R is for the results. So you have to demonstrate what were the results of your initiatives. And also sometimes people add an L for the lessons learned from the experience. So for instance, you could say, and also be very specific, and also talk about time. You let people have an idea when was that. And when I say be specific, you can just mention the month and the year. So for instance, you could say in July 2022, while serving as the president of maybe your university, be very specific of the university students union, we identified a problem, and then you explain what the problem was. That's the first sentence. And then from there, you could go ahead and say, um, you could go ahead and say another sentence. You add another sentence to just explain how the problem was impacting probably the students or the community you're dealing with. And then from there, that the two sentences now have you've used the two sentences or three to describe the situation and the task, and then you move on to the action. So in the action, you could have like three sentences. What exactly did you do? If you're in a group, focus on your individual contribution. So do not use things like we. Focus on just using the I instead of focusing on the group activities. Focus on what exactly was your contribution to the group, and then from there, move on and give the results of your initiative. One of the challenges I see when reviewing people's essays is that they are not really into, this is a leadership and influence essay, so you need to show you're influential. So for instance, if you start an initiative and you're recruiting people, you need to give details like how did you recruit them. Don't just say social media. You need to say whether you used a Google form, whether you posted stuff on Facebook. You need to or whether you use things like WhatsApp. You also need to give details of so be very specific of the platform. Just don't just say social media. And the other thing is just say how many members did you start with, because in these essay what you are required to do is do not say you're a leader, demonstrate you are, show you're a leader. So if you tell me that you started an initiative with 5 people and you are able to by the end of maybe 6 months you are 20 of you, then that's someone that you're influential. Then you don't that's how you need to show you're influential. So you need to give details. You need to show how exactly you did these things. The other thing is that people forget to give the results. They are very important, but don't really focus on things. Be very realistic, because some of the things you will be describing are not things you can give quantifiable results always. So, for example, if it's an education program in your constituency, like the example I've given in my blogs, then it also means that there are things you can't really say that you are responsible for the improvement of the education performance in your area, let's say a district. But you can say how many students were impacted. You can say how many schools you visited, how many pupils you're able to give to were able to benefit from motivational talks, those kind of things. But you can't really say that you're responsible for maybe reduction of crime just because of your initiative, because there are other factors that are in play. So one of the other things I would say is do not use high school examples. Do not use high school examples. This is something Chevening has been saying in their feedback over the years. Do not use high school examples. So, and even try to use a mix, if possible, of, let's say, your workplace and also community. Or if you're a recent graduate and maybe you haven't had a lot of experience out there, maybe you can use university examples. Maybe one university example of things you did well at the university. But always don't just give 3 examples of your leadership initiatives at your workplace. Focus also on giving a community one. So that mix is really important. To this end, I'll also highlight the need for the structure. So make sure that you have an introduction. It could be An introduction could be like 2 sentences of your essay. So this is basically saying, what do you understand by leadership? And the definition you give there should also highlight the kind of examples you're going to give. So you can't really say that, for instance, I'll give you my introduction. My introduction for my Chevening leadership essay was more of stuff like, I said that my ability to identify problems, form groups or assemble teams, and then work solutions with the teams. So that means my examples really had something to do with assembling teams and then finding solutions. But if your examples do not have teams, then there's no need of using such an opening. But you could say, but if your examples are more of really leading a group or influencing people to think, maybe it's their the influencing people, maybe their thoughts or their opinions on something, then that means your essays could actually, you could use such an introduction. The other thing is that people use quotes. I think I wouldn't really encourage you to use quotes, because really you need to personalize the essay you're writing. So not really discussing Nelson Mandela said this about leadership, but you could say something that leadership, something that is personal to you about leadership. So really not talking about Obama, but saying exactly what leadership implies to you, and not really quoting the Obamas and the Mandelas. But there is nothing wrong with that. It's only that I'm more concerned, if you really want to have a personal touch in your essays, then you need to personalize your essays in a way that someone can feel you, and not just think that this is a quote taken from maybe some of the people you consider as great leaders in the world. So the other thing I would say is the conclusion, which is really important for your essay. And the conclusion of the leadership essay, just discuss leadership. Just say how Chevening Scholarship will um, help you grow your leadership skills and why this is important. So people there waver around and start discussing other things. They start discussing studying in the UK. No, you're concluding a leadership essay. So focus on talking about leadership, probably saying how cheating will broaden your leadership skills, and that will help you maybe contribute significantly to, let's say, climate change adaptation efforts in your country, and achieve the SDG related to climate change. So those are the kind of things you can say in your conclusion, but do not say things like studying in the UK or networking. Just focus on leadership, because we know leadership is necessary in solving certain problems. And also do not go into details of the problems you want to solve, because those are things you'll also address in other parts of your essay. So I hope you're still crafting your questions, because I'll be taking questions at the end of this. And now I want to move on to the networking essay. So basically, for the networking essay, Chevening is looking for people who will take advantage of the opportunity to develop themselves. So will you be able to create networks that will be helpful for your career growth? One of the biggest mistakes I get when I'm reviewing networking essays, and I believe this is the hardest essays when it comes to most applicants in my experience, they are not able to show how they benefited from the relationships they have created. So, and this is a problem, because how are you going to take advantage or leverage on the Chevening scholarship to grow in your career if you can't demonstrate that? So, and people kind of give networking examples in a way, then they start showing how other people benefited. Oh, I met this person and this person helped me. They start this initiative, and this initiative benefited 300 people. That's actually is more of a leadership example than networking. So networking really is more of, how did you initiate, because you have to be the one initiating. Please do not say that I went to a conference and this guy was impressed by work and he approached me and then he has helped me in this way. No, that's not how it works. It works the other way around. You're the one who approach someone, so that shows you are the one who took the initiative. And the other thing is that, how do you maintain contact? So you have to explain, either in very basic terms, like, oh, we keep in touch through things like phone calls or emails or coffee chats, and then you explain how that relationship led to your growth. And here, when you talk about growth, we mean things like career growth, we mean placements, we mean job opportunities or skills you developed, or those people you requested them to become your mentor and they accepted, and how that has benefited you. So this is something that really I'm concerned when I look at applicants' essays when they're writing the networking essay. So I just needed to go into details and explain that. So the key thing when you're describing your networking examples, and here again, please come up with three of them, is people, time, places. Key things: people, time, places. So, what do I mean by people? Even if you go for a conference, you cannot network with everyone. So, what you're required to do is focus on one individual that you networked with. That was key. So, and also in the process of weaving around your networking essay, let the reader know your networks. So that's a thing that came up in the Chevening feedback in last year, that people are not mentioning their networks. So I know there are lawyers here, and one of the key networks for lawyers, especially in Kenya, where I know stuff about, is the Law Society of Kenya. So you could say, I am an advocate. I'm maybe a member of the Law Society of Kenya, and every year they hold the annual LSK conference. Of course, I keep on saying, people, every time you use an abbreviation, or make sure you write it in full the first time. Then you can now use it, the abbreviation, in later in your essays. So, and then you explain and say, in the 2022 conference held in X, the place, I met so and so. You give the title. So give the title of the person, give the name of the person and the title, and then explain how you initiated. Maybe they made a presentation and you're impressed. So after the presentation, you approach them. And because you're interested in certain things, like let's say oil and gas, or something to do with mineral law or climate change laws or something. So you had that discussion, and you maybe requested them. You have to explain in steps, step by step. You maybe requested them to be your mentor, and they accepted. And then how you keep in touch, and probably when an opening occurred in their farm, they were able to guide you through the application, or they were able to signpost you to the application, and you applied and got the job. At that point, you can end your networking example where you benefited, you got the job, or someone became your mentor and they have helped you improve in certain skills, let's say public speaking or leadership, or a lot of stuff. Or maybe they are still your mentor and they're helping you navigate your career. So that's how you structure your networking example. Really, it should end at the point where you benefit. So a lot of people have this idea that um, it must be it must be something that benefits both parties. Not necessarily. For me, I would really concentrate on discussing. Remember, also, you have limited words. You only have 500 words to discuss the three examples. Why would you focus on discussing how other people benefited, where you can use the word count to explain how you benefited instead of other people? So that's the key thing I would really, really highlight you to focus on. Focus on how you benefited and not how other people benefited from your networks. So make sure you mention your networks. I'll say that if it's a Law Society of Kenya, if you attend conferences, let people know you attend conferences. Let people, because ideally what we're looking for is someone who will benefit, someone who will come to the UK, network with other students, network with members of the faculty, network with the Chevening Secretariat, network with the other events that happen at the uni, because there are so many events that happen at the uni, and you can make meaningful networks that will help you navigate in your career for the next 10 to 20 years or in your life. So you need to demonstrate that you can do that by giving examples of how you've done that before. So again, three examples. A key thing here is now the conclusion of your networking essay. And for the networking essay, when you come to conclude, please again remember you're concluding a networking essay. Do not conclude other essays, say about studying in the UK. Focus on networking. And how can you conclude about it? So here, one way you could say is how you're going to network in the UK as a student, and also how you're going to network as an alumni. and how that is going to benefit you. So make sure you benefit. Please, people have been copying a lot. Oh, I will be part of the 50,000 alumni. Right now it's 55,000. So if you write 50K, it means you've been, probably you copied someone else's. That the alumni has been increasing for the last every year by 1,500. So right now it's 55,000. The people who are writing 50,000, it's 55,000. So, but more importantly is mentioning your country's alumni. So for me, I would really advocate saying how you're going to network with fellow students, how you're going to network with your faculty members. This includes your lecturers, professors, people at the department in the UK, and how. The how is probably, you could say, by actively participating in Chevening events, because there are Chevening events happening, being organized by Chevening Secretariat. There are also opportunities at the university to network. And then when you come back, you need to network also with your Chevening alumni community in your country to, because for example, if let's say you're in public health, there are other people who are solving public health problems within your Chevening alumni associations. So you need to network with them for you to grow, because they might signpost you to other places, to opportunities for your growth. And also, it will also be important to also make an impact in your community when you do things as a group. So that's how I would say you need to conclude your networking essay. And from there, I'm going to the studying in the UK essay. So the third essay, which is studying in the UK essay, you need to justify the choice of the universities or programs that you selected, and you have to prove that you have researched your courses. And how can you prove you've researched your courses and you didn't just go to the website and copy pasted? Because people go just and copy paste stuff to do with rankings. They copy paste basic stuff that anyone can see this is copy pasted. So one of the ways that you need to show that you're not copy pasting is personalizing your essay. So if you want to study, let me say, MSc Agriculture and Development, don't just say at the University of Reading, because that's what I did and I can remember what I wrote. Don't just say I want to go to the University of Reading because it's highly ranked. In fact, Chevening said in their last year feedback, most students are focused, kind of obsessed with rankings instead of other things about the university. You need to talk about your program, the modules, the lecturers. You need to, when you go to research about the course you want to do, please make sure you go and Google also. There are ResearchGate, there are Google Scholars, there are profiles of those professors in the university websites. Google them and see whoever is teaching that course and see whether there's something you can incorporate in your essay. But don't just say, I want to study agriculture project planning and management, or I'm choosing this course because of the module agriculture project planning and management in developing countries. You need to add a phrase which will help me manage agriculture projects in Kenya or in your country and promote food security. So when you add such a phrase in the same sentence, someone will see this is someone who exactly knows what they want to study and what skills they want to gain and how they want to use the skills in their country. Otherwise, when you say, I want to study at the University of Sussex because it's the best university in development studies and leave it there, I would say this is a copy pasted statement. You need to say, why then? Why is it important to you that you want to study development or development studies at University of Sussex? So again, the only way you can make that essay outstanding is by personalizing it. Don't just say I want to I want to, all things that are basic, like people mention labs. I want to study because it has world-class labs, or because the library opens 24 hours. All libraries, university libraries in the UK are open 24 hours in summer or during term time. So really, that's not a reason for you to go to choose a certain university. That's very basic, because every library opens 24 hours most of the times, apart from when the term time is over. Or labs. Or if you mention labs, because labs can be key if you're doing lab work, then you need to mention whether there is a specific technology in that lab and how that specific technology will help you solve a certain problem in the same sentence. That's a key thing I've noted. And I don't know whether to call it laziness, because to some extent, I see some kind of people just going to copy paste stuff and they're like, no, that's not how we do it. Chevening says, do not overuse university or program rankings. Other key justifications you can use are the modules. And if every time you mention a module, you can mention the module convener or the lecturer. Please get their titles right. If someone is a professor, just mention the professor. Remember, or if someone is a doctor, just use the titles as they are until you interact with them and you realize probably they don't want to use them, then you can stop using them. But while writing your essays, get the titles right. Again, one of the other things you could use is how the program is delivered. Delivery. Is it lecturers? Is it workshops? Is it seminars? Does your course have maybe field work? But you don't just mention that. You need to show or maybe explain how that bit you're explaining the reason why it's important to you. So, for instance, you could say your course has a field trip to one of the developing countries, and then you have to explain, and this will impact me with skills that are necessary to maybe manage development projects in put your country there, because it's also if it's a developing country, so that someone can see the context of why that reason you're giving is important. Or maybe the modes of assessment. I want to do this course because it's assessed. Maybe do people have exams or do they use essays, and then you have to explain why that is important to you. So basically, that's what I would say. Again, in terms of structure, you need to have a justification. You need to have an introduction, and then an introduction really is just like, why do you want to study a certain thing? So let's say you are, for example, let's say you want to study climate change policy or climate change and development or something like that, or something related to climate change. Your introduction could be giving statistics, but don't overuse statistics, or maybe highlighting in 2 sentences only, not like a whole paragraph, but 2 sentences about the problem of climate change in your country, right? Climate change in your country. And then you explain how that is causing, maybe climate change is causing things like food insecurity. Climate change could also be causing stuff to do with public health issues, or a lot of stuff in terms of also the GDP lost, all those kind of things. And then you say, this has motivated me to pursue a postgraduate degree in climate change and development, because generally you will choose courses that are related. So you can actually say, this has motivated me to pursue maybe a postgraduate degree in climate change and development to offer solutions, or to help maybe adaptation and mitigation of climate change in don't say my country, give the name of the country. And if you key on word count, my country and the name of the country, if it's just one word, then you'll have one word extra somewhere. So just put your country there. I kind of feel you need to know these kind of tricks. Instead of saying my country, you need to give the name of your country. So you're justifying the first paragraph why you want to study a specific field. And then the second paragraph, you go and discuss your first choice. And you need to signpost the reader. Do not let them guess this is your first choice because it's in the first paragraph. Put it, my first choice is MSc Climate Change and Development at the University of Sussex. And then you go and explain. The second sentence goes to, the course appeals to me, or the university appeals to me because, and as I said, don't just copy paste, personalize the reasons. And then the second paragraph, the third paragraph is the second choice, and the until now you get to all the three choices in their own paragraphs, and then you have a conclusion. A conclusion could be one or two sentences for the paragraph. And generally, you need just to say why you want to study in the UK and why you selected those courses. So you could say just studying in the UK will impact me with skills, and you need to be very specific with skills. Could be research skills, could be development, projects management skills. You need to be very specific on the skills and how those skills will be useful for maybe in sorting the problem you highlighted in the introduction. That's a climate change, as I've given you the example. So I'm finishing on the studying in the UK essay, and now I want to go to the career plan essay. So this is the easiest essay to write, but doesn't mean that people get it right all the time, because you're just supposed to write what you're planning to do with that degree. So it has to be ambitious but achievable. Ambitious but achievable. So the structure, you need to have an introduction, then you have to have a short-term career plan, one paragraph, a medium-term career plan, one paragraph, and a long-term career plan, one paragraph, and then a conclusion. And these conclusions can be one sentence or two, as I'm saying. So, in terms of the introduction, you need to just highlight a problem in your country or something that you want to solve that you're passionate about, and which is also linked to your courses. And then at the end of that paragraph one, you say, and this has motivated me to pursue a career in maybe diplomacy, to maybe improve relations between my country and between Nigeria, if your country, or Pakistan or India, and other countries. So that's how you introduce your career plan, and that's enough. Once you highlight a problem and then say you explain the problem in a second sentence, then the third sentence just go straight and say talk about your career. Then, in terms of the second paragraph, you go now to the short term career plan. One mistake people make here is putting it in years. There is no definition of what's short term and what's mid-term, medium term, and what's long term. So, ideally, do not say in the next 2 to 5 years, or in the next, or put in the short term, then put into brackets. No, actually, we discourage people writing in using brackets unless you're just explaining an abbreviation. don't y- don't use brackets so much in your essays. So so just say, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, because the more you write your achieving essays, you also get kind of an aha moment. So when I wrote my achieving essays, and this is something I've spoken to other people who've gotten the scholarship, it also happens to them. You start getting clarity in terms of where you want to go in your life, what you want to do. So you need to be very specific in the career plan. So people write things like, I want to work in the ministry, or to work in the Ministry of Education. As what? Do you want to, in the Ministry of Education in your country, there are people who sweep, there are people who clean, there are directors, there are people in charge of basic education, there are people in charge of high school education, there are people in charge of higher education. So you need to mention the specific post you want to occupy, and mention the specific organization. Do not say, I want to go and maybe work for the government. Government has many departments. Be very specific. It's just a dream, just a plan. So you need to be very specific. So the other thing is, let your career plan be progressive. What do I mean by progressive? Show that you'll be growing as time goes. So if you're starting as maybe an assistant director, a director, and then probably a minister, or president, or the chair, or the chairperson of a certain board, or you need to show the progress, because people grow in their career, and that's the essence of coming up with a good career plan. So the structure is the same. What position do you want to occupy? In which organization? Which, like, three objectives would you want to accomplish in that career plan? Why are they important? And who will you work with? You can mention organizations here, the organizations you'll work with in order to achieve that career plan. I'll give you an example. In my career plan, before applying for the Chevening scholarship, I had ran for member of parliament in my country. So it kind of linked. So my short-term career plan was to come and start a CBO, that is a community-based organization that would train farmers on good agricultural practices. And I went into details what these agricultural practices would be and why were they important. Mentioned about commercialization of small-scale agriculture to achieve food security and also promote incomes of small scale farmers. I mentioned I would work with microfinance institutions working with farmers. I would work with the county government or local government because agriculture is devolved. So you're mentioning who the organization you work with, and again, I'm saying, why are these things important? Because we would want to improve the incomes of small scale farmers and also promote food security. In my medium term career plan, I said I wanted to become the Minister for Agriculture in the county or in the local government. And I said what the things I wanted to do. Things like improving maybe construction of dams, to deal with water shortages for farmers, or things to do with inputs or maybe things to do with training farmers, hiring more extension officers to train farmers on good agricultural practices now at government level and not from coming from a CBO level. Now I'm the minister in the county. And then also I said, who am I going to work with? Obviously, if you're a minister, you work with the county assembly or the local assembly. These are the people who make laws, and you also work with the national government because some of the things are also influenced by the local governments. And you also work with development partners because now you're in government. And so you mentioned the government partners. It could be there is a lot of NGOs that work with county governments in terms of agriculture and food security. And so all of these things, I came to mention them in my essay. And then in the long term, I said I wanted to become an MP, a national member of parliament. And I said now, with the old experience that I've gained from working with the CBO with farmers at the local level, being a minister at a local government, and now becoming an MP, now we will now move on to make laws that will make now agriculture or food security to sort agriculture and food security issues in Kenya. So, and all that means you can see now I'm moving from local to county and then to national level. And now I'm a minister. Sorry, I'm an MP. And now the thing was also MPs sit in committees in parliament, and one of the committees is agriculture, trade, and cooperatives, which also helps the president in negotiating trade deals. And this is why I meant now. I said now I'll also lead delegations negotiating agriculture trade deals with countries like the United Kingdom. And I said trade also brings countries together, and this will improve relations between Kenya and the United Kingdom. So again, you can see effortlessly, I can bring out how me being a Chevening scholar will improve relations between Kenya and the UK. But this is a point that I tell people: do not force it. You really do not have to show that your country has to relate better with the UK through your Chevening scholarship. If there is no way, there is no way. But I'm sure for every course, there is a way. If you research very well, and this means also I mentioned what the UK was doing, because there are things the UK was doing in my country or in Kenya concerning agriculture and food security. So do not mention the years, as I said. Just use short term, medium term, and long term. And the other thing is that the three plans should be in their own paragraphs, and then you should have a conclusion. So here now you can conclude and say, with the Chevening scholarship, now you can say how that will help you solve a certain problem. But generally, what I like is, if there is a vision in your country, like I know there is Kenya Vision 2030, there is Nigerian 2050. I know Ghanaians have their own, and I know Rwanda have their own. I don't know because I've done consulting work for those countries. So if you can link that vision to the SDGs, and especially the SDG that is related to the course that you want to do, then you can mention them here. That's the right way I see how you can come up with a career plan linked. So if you're in education and issues to do with gender, those are very easy because those are key. If you're working on education for girls, if you're working on climate change, those are things that are always linked with SDGs. So that's how you develop your career plan. And please, 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 this is a free card for you to dream. But there's a caveat again here: be realistic. And this might appear as a joke, but if you've never vied for a position, we know, like politics in my country, you can't just wake up one day and become the president, right? So if you really want to get into politics, can you show initiative that you've already started doing things in politics? So that's a drift I would tell you. So whatever career plan you choose, if it's politics and politics is key, just show that you've already started. But if you're not really interested in politics, do not try and say you want to go into politics. Focus on a career plan that is realistic, and consult people. Consult people. What I mean by consulting people, people give you insights. I keep on telling people, why are you selecting this course and it doesn't align with your career plan? So something is missing. So you tell someone, if you really want to follow this career plan, then your courses could be changed or tweaked to reflect something else. Or maybe you need to Tweak your career plan to reflect the courses that you'll be taking. So, and this means because there's a this is the thing I tell people when I review the essays. I don't like reviewing essays that I would say leadership and networking alone. I like reading all the essays together because you can actually advise someone and tell them you're telling one coherent story in your achieving essays because it's one story told in four different essays. So is the story coherent? That's something that you can tell when you read all the four essays together. So I want to take questions now because I've finished. And I can see the first one. You can start typing them. The first one is should there be any connection between leadership and influence essay with networking essays? Mine is coming out independently. Necessarily, no, because these are specific instances. So I wouldn't say there's any connection, but they could be connected because, for instance, if you're organizing, let's say, Rotary activities, let's say you're in Rotary. If you're organizing Rotary activities as a leader, then you could also be attend a Rotary event and meet someone who you now include the Rotary experience as part of your networking, right? But you also mentioned a problem you solved while you are leading a Rotary or a Rotary club. So that's the way I see it. So they do not have to be connected, but they can be connected. That's I hope I have answered that question. Um, the other one is how can mentioning of university rankings make me stand out when tackling the study in the UK essays? Ideally, if you want to focus on rankings, which are not really key, and I will tell you this. For instance, um, the top ranked universities in the UK are the Oxford, the Cambridge, the Oxbridge, the two of them, and UCL. They also is also ranked highly. But if you want to do a course like, let's say, in agriculture and forestry, let's say MSc Sustainable Agriculture, believe you me, Reading University and Newcastle University will be far much ahead than those universities. Probably, I don't think even Oxford offers a course in agriculture. So, why would you focus on a university ranking? I would rather look at the course itself, not the university. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to everyone. You'd rather focus on the program that you are choosing, but really not the university. Because the university might be highly ranked, but what about your course? But Chevening said last year, or the feedback was people overusing rankings. So don't just overuse rankings. Make those rankings make sense. Like, why are you choosing this university? If it's highly ranked, what does that mean to you? Why is that important to you? So that's how I would put it. And I hope I've answered your question. So the other one is, does having a master's reduce the chances of securing achieving scholarship for a second master's? No, it doesn't, because I know people who have had masters and they've gotten achieving scholarships. I Yeah, I even know someone who had a PhD and they applied for a achieving scholarship for masters and they got it. So the thing is, why do you need it boils down to why do you need the masters, and it will show in your essays. Ideally, it's like you'll be telling Chevening, I want to do all these things, but I can't do them without this masters from the UK. So, but you're not saying that directly, it's through your essays, as I've explained to you how to write the essays. So it doesn't reduce your chances. But I also wonder, apart from where you put your information in the before writing the essays, of course, there is the questions you answer for the evening. So apart from that, there is no other place you can mention you have a master's. You don't need to mention you have a master's in your essays. Like I didn't even mention my degree was in BCom or finance in my essays. So those are things that you might want to look at, because also you only put it in your information, or you put your bio information, the course you hold, the courses you've studied, or your age, those kind of things. Um, I have completed the first draft of the essays. Would you be in a position to review them? So technically, because of the so many people have promised to review the essays, I'm only going to grant 30 minutes consultation, which is free. We go through your essays, I give you your advice, and that's based on the people who sign up for the masterclass. I'm organizing another one next weekend. So the 30 people I promised, I know if they are not here, the chance has already gone. I don't think I'll be able to look for them again. So it's basically for the people who attend. So if I organize another one and you sign up, because I'll be organizing another one. So keep following follow me on social media. You have my LinkedIn is my main way of communication. Drop a message there. If you comment on the videos, I always reply to those comments. And if you're looking on how to contact me, I always give my email addresses in private in those chats. I can give you. And so I might not be able to review your essays, like provide written feedback, but we can go through them together with you, and I give you the my feedback. Um, can one switch career plans? Very important question. Oh, sorry, there's a yes. Can one switch career plans? Say you did something economics and sociology, but have found interest in agriculture, dairy farming. Perfect. Yes, my first degree was in finance. I actually worked in three banks. Um, but then I got interested in agriculture and food system issues, and I switched careers through Chevening. So I did an MSc in agriculture and development, and I had dropped agriculture, I guess, in my second year in high school. So my agriculture was really basic. I moved from high school. I only did it in 2 years, and then the next agriculture courses I attended were in the uni. So during my masters. So yes, you can use it to switch careers, and people have done it. I know someone who also did a finance degree, and then they moved to urban planning and development. The only thing you have to do, again, and I keep on saying, is the link between the programs you want to study, the skills you want to gain or competencies you want to gain, and when you go to the career plan, then you also need to link them to to the courses that you have selected. I'm seeing another question here. Would you advise us in the study in the UKSA we also apply to more than three because there is an opportunity to swap later, or just stick to the three in the essay? There's an advantage of applying to many courses, and I'll tell you. I think I had like over 20 offers from universities. You know why? I will say this because I know about agriculture and forestry courses. So if you apply for MSc Agriculture and Development at the University of Reading, they might be having scholarships within the university. So they actually send you emails after giving you the offer to signpost you to other opportunities you could apply for scholarships. So, for instance, so why would you not apply for Manchester because of the diversity and equity scholarship that is offered there? You could use, and you remember also maybe you also be applying for Commonwealth shared scholarships. So you can swap the offers. You get what I mean? You can swap the offers you got, because at the end of the day, Chevening just requires you to have one solid offer when they give you the scholarship. So you can change the courses during the interview, and even among the three you submit at the interview, you can change when you get a scholarship. Whichever was number three, then you change your letter will be your number one. So have as many offers as possible. I believe because those universities also have scholarships. So you're not just applying for the Chevening scholarship, you're also applying to the uni because they might have internal scholarships that they might be able to offer to you. So yes, you can apply for more. Grace, most of the questions I have been addressed, but since you have the achieving experience, I wanted to know what specific networking opportunities were you exposed to while studying. So very important questions. One of the things that I had is the Best of British events organized by Chevening Secretariat, and that's something you can get from the website. Best of British. I was able to visit the House of Commons. That's the Parliament houses in London. I had also a chance to visit the Parliament in Wales, but I declined. Chevening also offered us events, topical events. So there could be even things to do with entrepreneurship. If you're studying entrepreneurship, there could be events to do with climate change. If you're studying climate change issues, anything. Chevening used to organize events, and they would be ticketed. So there would be ballots. So those who are successful would be invited, and they'll be able to attend those events. The other things is that Universities will have events. There are conferences within the university. I was able to network with people I met in conferences. So a lot of these things depend on your initiative. So there are things that will be happening in your area, but you need to know about them. So if there are things that will be happening, for example, there are events, probably you might also be attending local events. I do the local park run every Saturday, and I meet people. So those kind of events. You could also be volunteering in the local community, maybe teaching kids English. They could be kids from countries where English is not the first language, or you could be teaching kids your language, let's say Swahili, if you're in East Africa. So those kind of events, not necessarily organized by Chevening, but also if you want to volunteer in the local community. And Chevening also has an award certificate for someone who volunteers the most during their Chevening year. They have a way of recording those hours. So those are things you could do, because getting Chevening scholarship is not the end. You might be applying for other things in your life, and you find that the voluntary experience or the awards you got while doing the Chevening scholarship are actually important in other aspects in your life. So would you be in a position to review my essay? I have answered that question. That is, if you attend the masterclass, the live one, I'll be having another one next weekend. Sign up and I'll be able to look at 30 minutes. I can guarantee that. Can one use different examples for their leadership and influence essay, or they have to stick to one type? I really do not understand that question, but you have to have three distinct examples, because I've seen people explaining, I was the leader of this organization, then they've just described the roles. No, it's really, it's just like describe an instance where you demonstrated leadership. So you give just specific instance, and then you go and give another one until there are three. So, and they don't have to be you're in the same position. Like, one instance I used in my example was when I started the mentorship program, where I used to go around schools and motivating primary school kids. And we also used to donate geometrical sets for mathematics. So that was one instance, how I explained how I did that. The other instance was when I started an initiative also to start school gardens where kids could learn about agriculture. So those are totally different instances, and they were in different years. And I'm not describing my position. I was a private citizen. I was not, those kind of things. So really is focusing on the instances, not the positions you've held, and they could be different. So is it a good idea for me to state that I want to continue in my current role for a short term? Yes, but you need to show what will you do different. And you've reminded me a very important point, which I would have forgotten. There are some people who have, I was reviewing an essay, sorry, I don't need to disclose the person, and someone said that they want to come back and continue in that CBO, a very local community-based organization. I was like, do you really need a master's to come back and work in that CBO? You need to dream bigger. You need to dream. So yes, you can come back to your current job, but you need to show either you won't come back like the normal position. Probably you'll get a promotion. So you need to show that you will not come back and be the same position, or even if you come back to the same position, show what you'll do differently, how you'll apply the knowledge, what kind of issues will you be addressing. So there must be some difference even if you're coming back to the same role. So I hope that I have answered that correctly. um and the other one, are the essays supposed to have any interdependence? No, again, but yes. And why I say this is because the courses you study influence the career plan. So they are a bit of connected in a way, right? Especially the courses you study. So you can't say you want to study diplomacy and then come and talk about you want to occupy roles in trade in your career plan. Then why don't you just do courses in trade? Because there are courses that are specific for maybe international trade or whatever. Or why not just then change your career plan to diplomacy, becoming an ambassador, becoming the minister for foreign affairs in your country? You get what I mean? There is some connection between the courses you choose and the career plan. So, but not necessarily between the leadership examples you give and your career plan. Those might not be, there might not be any link between the leadership examples you give and your career plan. But there's definitely a link between the courses you choose and your career plan. So the other one, since you got more than one scholarship, what criteria did you use to choose the one that you went for and why? Chevening is prestigious. Yeah, Chevening has produced heads of state because they look for leaders. It's the cream of the cream. They've produced many prime ministers. They've produced ministers even in my country, in Kenya. There are more than, right now, almost 10 ministers and senior government officers who've gone to the Chevening Scholarship. It's the prestige. When you mention you've had the Chevening Scholarship, people know what Chevening is. So that's the criteria I use to select the scholarship. So, and the other one is, how does one approach the requirement for academic references when applying to multiple universities to avoid your referee being overwhelmed by writing these multiple references for you? I think number one, develop a relationship with your referees. Develop a relationship with them, because they can write also very generic letters which might not be helpful. So, and I mean generic, because cheating requires two referees and one referee is academic. So generally they should speak about your academic ability. And then I doubt they might know very much about your leadership, but some might do. The other one is the other one is professional, and that one you can let them more or less discuss about about your leadership, um, and personal abilities. So there's that link between. So, and for me, this is what I do. Every time you apply for a scholarship, email your you can email your referee and tell them this is the requirement in a very good email. And these days there are so many helpful ways you can do that. You can Google how to write an email requesting. You can learn how to do these things. So make sure you develop a relationship with your referees. Explain to them what is required. You can just tell them, I'm supposed to have or I'm requesting you to do a reference letter for me. Basically, you can discuss my leadership ability, because tell them, remind them the position you held. You can discuss even a specific instance, because it really works when someone mentions a specific thing that you did in the university in the letter. So be careful who you choose. But generally, I also guess it's not really the main thing in Chevening. The main thing is getting someone to do a letter. But in other scholarships, what they write matters. For Chevening, it's your story that really matters. So if you get someone who accepts to do the letters for you, that's great. Um, the other one is yeah, make sure you have a relationship with them and brief them. Tell them this is, I'm applying to this university and they are requesting for a reference letter, or they'll be requesting a reference letter to you. This is my updated CV. If you need more information, I can provide it. Give even your transcripts. So I still use one of my referees at the University of Reading, even when I was applying for my PhD, a professor who we connected and we became friends, professional uh, friends. So every time I apply for something, I write an email to him. Hi, so and so, I'm applying for this position, and this is, they might be reaching out to you for a reference letter. Kindly find attached my updated CV. My CV is only 2 pages. So we can discuss that in later videos, how to come up with a very brief CV. And then I also, if there is if it's something academic, please, you can attach your transcripts or anything that will give them more information about you. So the other question is, do the examples have to be 3, or you can use 2 as well? Yeah, if you don't have a third one, use 2, but I would prefer 3. Why? Because 3 are diverse enough, and it's possible to give 3. You can give at least one example, 130 words per example, and then you can use 130 times 3 is 390, I guess so. And then you can use the remaining 110 words for the introduction and for the conclusion. I hope that. But if you use 2, then that means you need to write more for your examples, which might mean you might digress, because one thing I like having the word limit is you only say what is important. And if you use more examples, then that means you'll give very skeleton answers. So that's the reason why I take the balance of three. I hope that you get that right. Anna, that I have answered that one. Christian, is it necessary your leadership essay contains three examples? What is if you have one solid example that showcases a lot? I wouldn't go for that idea. Please come up with three different examples, because even in during the interview they might ask you, tell us another example. So come up with three distinct examples, not one, not explaining one example. That's not how it goes. And if you use the star approach, you'll be able to sort that question. Can I have two professional referees because my academic referee was more than 5 years ago? But but they don't know about your academic ability, so how can they speak about your? So that's the problem. You need someone who speaks about your academic ability. I mean, I don't know how Chevening would do that, but for me, I would actually know when someone is lying, because, for example, if you use someone might not know about your academic ability at work, but someone who taught you might speak about your academic ability. So that's where I draw the line that we need someone who can speak. If it's academic ability, it's someone who's taught you at uni level. Even if you can approach the uni and they might give you a generic letter from the dean, well, that can work, not necessarily from a specific. There are letters that are done from university departments by maybe the dean's secretary, but they'll come with the signature of the dean. So you can still use those ones. So, what is the best word limit you would recommend when you are writing the essay? Below 500. I mean, mine were always 499 or 500. Use the words as much as possible, but make sure you also use them to say things that are important. Otherwise, thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's live. Will be for those who did not get a chance to get a 30 minutes um, mentorship slot. Look out for my social media channels and also the channel. I post a lot. I post posts on the channel, and I'll be offering another chance to other 30 people or 20. So, and for the 30 that have been here with me, please reach out to me and I'll be able to slot in as soon as possible if you're done with your essays. All the best in your applications, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I do post opportunities and other scholarships that are open. So, and that's the basic way I can help you. Otherwise, have a great afternoon, have a great weekend from wherever you've joined me from, and all the best in your achieving journeys. And hope to see you next year in the UK as you start your master's programs through the Chevening Scholarship. Thank you very much.